No, it's not in my DNA. I mean, coming from the Marine Corps environment, giving up's not an option.
Imagine that you've done everything right. You've served as an officer in the Marine Corps, transitioned into a successful tech career, and checked all the boxes of the traditional American dream, only to realize that path has left you lost without a sense of purpose. You decide to bet on yourself and launch a business, only to hit a wall when a sudden government funding freeze derails your primary investment. You're forced to pivot your entire strategy while unlearning the rugged individual mindset that tells you to carry the burden alone. Today's guest, Dave Wolcott, lived that transition and used those setbacks to build a massive legacy. We're exploring how he moved from the bureaucracy of corporate America to founding and exiting a tech consulting firm, eventually launching Pantheon Investments to help other founders achieve true financial freedom. Our conversation focuses on the practical shift from being a solo operator to a strategic leader, the importance of minimizing taxes, and why personal development is the highest ROI investment you will ever make. We'll look at the leadership lessons Dave brought from the Marines into the boardroom and the specific strategies he uses to help entrepreneurs create wealth that goes far beyond a paycheck. As always, if you found value from this content, please like and subscribe.
All right, Dave Wolcott, welcome to Beyond Fulfillment.
Hey, Dave, really grateful to be here and connect with you and your audience.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you taking the time. So, Dave, if you would, for our listeners, can you just give us your backstory and how you became an entrepreneur?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of interesting, right? I actually, was in a middle class family and born and raised in Connecticut. And I was told that the recipe for success was go to school, get good grades, you're going to get a job, right? And life would kind of work out, right? So I followed down that path and then had the opportunity to actually serve my country in the Marine Corps. So I did the ROTC program in college. As soon as I got out, got to travel the world. I became combat tested and really learned some things in the Marine Corps they don't teach you anywhere else. Things such as leadership, teamwork, and integrity. Shortly after I transitioned from the Marines, I started working in the tech industry in corporate America. And I can tell you, Dave, I quickly lost that sense of purpose and mission that was so driving me in the Marine Corps. So I really felt kind of frustrated with that. I also felt very frustrated with basically the corporate bureaucracy and working in someone else's machine and really trading time for money. Right. So I think these were the early stages of really becoming an entrepreneur. And I think one of the biggest light bulb moments for me was actually reading The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. And this is back in about 2000. And at the same time, my wife and I were raising a family, and we had an 18-month-old toddler. And then on October 24th, 2000, we literally had triplets and quadrupled the size of our family. So the first thing that was going through my head, Dave, when I was like literally holding three babies in my arms at the same time, my paternal instinct was just saying like, I've got to provide for financial security for my family, and this is going to be, absolutely massive. And, I went to see my financial planner, and the first thing that he told me was, you need to just max out your 401k. You can do 529 plans for kids. And it was right then that I knew that building wealth in this traditional sense was not going to get me where I wanted, right? So I really started this obsessive journey to figure out how the ultra wealthy were actually really building wealth. And as part of that, becoming an entrepreneur and having absolutely no ceiling on how much money you can create, based on that cash flow quadrant, I shortly became an entrepreneur and started my own tech consulting business shortly thereafter. And then I started investing in all kinds of different assets. Fast forward 20 years later, I exited that consulting business. We had a successful exit, and I've created this latest iteration of my business, Pantheon Investments, to really help other entrepreneurs figure out how to actually build wealth, how to pay less in taxes, how to avoid capital gains, how to invest your money to create cash flow, and how to create control. And to your, your podcast name is great, Beyond Fulfillment, how to live a life of absolutely true fulfillment.
Okay. All right. And so, Dave, you mentioned your time in the Marines and what it taught you in terms of the leadership and the integrity. And then, of course, when you got into corporate thereafter, you were very frustrated with the bureaucracy, and that was the beginnings of you really wanting to be an entrepreneur. So, like, when you think of that, how did those previous experiences shape the way that you ultimately built and scaled your business?
Yeah, it's interesting, Dave, right? Because if you kind of look back, over time, I mean, there weren't all that many entrepreneurs, 25 years ago. There wasn't great content, great podcasts and things like that, even really talking about entrepreneurship. You might see some solopreneurs, right, doing, whether it's a dentist office or a dry cleaner or something like that. That's all you really thought about. So I kind of had to go through this transformation of learning some of the things that I didn't like, right? Like, again, working in this corporate machine where I always knew that I could do things faster, better, cheaper, right? And that's, John Baptiste Say, that's his original definition of an entrepreneur is, right, someone who can take something from a lower level of productivity and move it to a higher level of productivity, right? And I prided myself on doing that in the Marine Corps, right? That's what it was all about. It was all about, being innovative, being resilient, getting things done when all the odds were against you, learning how to leverage a team, right? So I learned a lot of those, skills and attributes that really just led me to this kind of boiling point, working inside of corporate America that said, hey, I've got to become an entrepreneur, right? I've got to get out there and do this on my own. And the minute you do that, you take full financial responsibility for yourself, and you actually move into, what's really the performance-based economy, which is, I'm going to get compensated based on the value that I create in the marketplace versus just a time and effort where I'm trading my time for money.
Okay. All right. So you reach that boiling point, you launch out on your own. So what was there in that first year or two building the business? Like, what was the biggest challenge that you faced?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge was really trying to do everything yourself, right? I think, as entrepreneurs, right, we want to do it. We kind of have this. Dan Sullivan likes to call it this being a rugged individual, right? Which is, you're taking pride, you're trying to be a perfectionist. So you're wearing all these hats, everything from, marketing to sales to administration to finance, right? I mean, all these different facets of the business, and you're wearing all of those hats trying to do everything at once because we're all pretty bootstrapped, right, when we start new businesses. So I think it was really just having enough time to be able to figure out how to balance scaling the organization up front.
Okay. And in those early years, as you're building, right, and as it's the most challenging, was there ever a point that you felt like giving up? When I first jumped into podcasting, I had no idea what I was doing. I relied heavily on my sales background to do cold outreach and get guests. But let's be honest, that strategy isn't sustainable for everyone, and it's why we see so many podcasters quit before they get any traction. If I had it all to do over again, I'd join Podmatch right from the start. Podmatch is like the Amazon Prime of podcasting. Their AI-driven matching doesn't just find any guests, it finds the right guests. No more chasing, just high-quality, authentic connections and top-tier support. If you're a podcaster looking to scale without the burnout, I'd highly recommend Podmatch. Just click the link below and start matching today.
No, it's not in my DNA. I mean, coming from the Marine Corps environment, giving up is not an option at all. So I never thought about that at all.
Okay. All right. And during that time, what was the single most important decision or pivot that you made that changed the trajectory of your business?
Yeah, I think there was a big, we had grown really fast. We won the Inc. 5000, I think a year four, as soon as we were able to qualify it for it. We had really explosive growth, which is great. And then we made a significant investment into the public sector side and trying to grow our business on the government side. And then during that time, we brought in kind of a senior executive to run that. We invested really heavily in it. And then there was this basically government freeze on funds that had happened right when we were kind of at our culmination point to realize some of the value of that investment. And we had to walk away from it. And it was absolutely huge. We had been basically building that investment for like 2 years. And with all of the funding kind of frozen and things, we just had to walk away from it and really right size the organization again and kind of shift significantly.
Okay. And how much did that impact you in the moment? I mean, it sounds like you're building for 2 years towards this point. You're about to realize the value of that investment, and then the funding gets frozen and you totally have to switch up. I mean, how big of a hit to the business was that?
Yeah, it was pretty huge, Dave. I mean, we were literally going through, we had 5 years of, double digit growth, just up and to the right, hockey stick. We had just won, like I said, the Inc. 5000. Everything was growing and doing well. We had made some very strategic key hires to the executive team. And within 90 days thereabouts, we were upside down by seven figures in the business.
Wow. Okay. So that's 5 years in. And I mean, ultimately, I think close to 18 years or so, you said you exited that company. So clearly things turned around. But was there a specific point where, like in an inflection point where everything started to click thereafter?
Yeah, I think we made the best of it, and I think there's just so much growth that you do take on personally as an entrepreneur. And one construct that's a great way to think about things is like the business that you come from is really the first business that you start, right? Maybe based on your relationships, your skills, your experience, things like that. But the business too is the business that the person you're trying to become and you're evolving to. And again, actually, to your beyond fulfillment, it's actually aligning with your purpose, right? And how can you create the biggest impact and things like that. So to your point, I think it was really more of the iteration of actually starting the seeds of my next business versus, right, we were doing a full pivot in that existing business. We had changed different sectors and things that we were focusing on, but what was really happening, to really answer your question, was creating that sense of what my next business really looked like.
Okay. And was there an unexpected person, a partnership, or an opportunity that arrived at exactly the right time?
Yeah, I had mentioned Dan Sullivan, who's one of my mentors. He runs Strategic Coach, which is one of probably the top entrepreneurial coaching organizations in the country. I've been in it for almost 10 years now. And that was really, it came for me right at the right time. And I heard Dan on a podcast just like this. And I said, that is exactly in line with the thinking that I have. And so I started my journey with that coaching that, has literally really transformed all of, my results ever since.
Okay. And could you walk us through an example of how you turned a major setback into a breakthrough?
Yeah, I mean, it really forces you into doing some very internal reflection. I mean, not just your average SWOT analysis on, on the business. Hey, how can we adjust this or really optimize this? You're really looking deep inside, not only externally, but also internally on what do we need to change in the business, right? Do we need to completely pivot, right? To whether that's into getting into a new sector, creating a new offering, creating a whole new go-to-market or something like that. But it's really through our deepest challenges that we can actually identify the biggest opportunities for growth.
Love that. Okay. And based on everything that you've been through, what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's just starting out on their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I think, Dave, it really comes down to investing in yourself as your number one asset, right? Because the biggest ROI you will ever get from any investment, bar none, is yourself. So I constantly am investing in myself in all capacities. So through coaches, through mentoring, through my health. I spend over 6 figures a year on myself, on developing myself. It could be, going to conferences, masterminds. We run a mastermind community. All of these things till you're getting constant exposure to different people, different ideas, different environments, right? Different concepts, people in different industries. Sometimes I get my best ideas for my own business from someone in a completely different industry that you can apply to your own, right? So I think mastermind communities are really huge. I think coaching is really massive. You can make some really big gains there. And again, investing in yourself, like I said, even health. I mean, just think about if you could bring 10x the energy that you have today to your business, to your family, to your team members. What is that going to result, right? That's going to definitely result in some scale. And then ultimately, again, this is around fulfillment, right? So if we can be fulfilled as an individual and the founder as an entrepreneur, right? Your business is a complete extension of your own nervous system, right? So just think about that. If you're a newer entrepreneur, wherever you are, if you're in scarcity mode because you're bootstrapped, right, your business is going to feel that. And you're going to be making tactical and linear decisions. But you want to be thinking with abundance. You want to be thinking with scale. And the way to get there is by changing how you think internally by investing in yourself.
Mm, okay. All right. And Dave, after everything, what's been the most fulfilling part of this journey for you?
The most fulfilling part is really creating impact in this current form of business, Dave. It's just really been amazing to help other entrepreneurs completely change their trajectory in terms of their overall, their financial picture and their wealth and what they're doing, where it moves from more of that uncertainty to confidence and clarity and their wealth vision, what that really looks like. They're paying less in taxes, significantly less in taxes. They may have had exits or future exits where they're paying nominal amounts of taxes. They're actually structured into cash flowing investments that if they don't take any cash flow out of the business, they got enough cash flow coming in from passive income type assets, right? Like commercial real estate and other assets that do that. So it's really this whole transformation that people go through to feel much more in control of their financial future.
Okay. All right. And Dave, if people are hearing this, entrepreneurs are hearing this, and they want to learn more about Pantheon Investments and the work that you do, what's the best way people can reach out to you or find you online?
Yeah, so if people want to check out our investor club, which is free to join, I've got a free copy of our book that I could share, which is holisticwealthstrategy.com, and you can download a free copy of my book.
Okay. All right. And we will link all that in the show notes for everyone. All right, Dave, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and sharing all this valuable wisdom from your journey with our listeners. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you.